Podcast. My name is Zack. I am your host, and I am excited to get ready for the official week 1 of the 2021 college football season. Get hype. This is exciting. Oh man, am I excited for this season. So excited to hear fans in the stands for the first time in what feels like forever. I loved watching the Nebraska-Illinois game, and that fans got pumped for a punt going out at the 1-yard line. I missed that. I missed college football. So exciting to be back. Again, this is the Big Ten Football Talk Podcast, week 1 predictions, and we're going to look back as well at Nebraska at Illinois. If you're watching for the first time, you like the video, hit the like and subscribe button to get notifications on YouTube. Find us at Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and hopefully soon Apple. We are so excited. I am pumped for this season and to spend this season with you guys. We're gonna get right into it. The first thing we're gonna do on the show is I'm gonna break down Nebraska at Illinois. I picked Illinois to win 27-17. I thought they would win by 10. I thought a lot of the reason why they would win was because Bret Bielema would have his guys ready to go. They would be disciplined. The quarterback play would be efficient. And I thought, despite the fact that Nebraska was probably the more talented team going into that game, there's just a lot of turmoil in that program, a lot of questions about whether Scott Frost is the guy, a lot of transfers going out. The game unfolded kind of the way I predicted. It was a 30-22 win for Illinois. And I thought Nebraska was the better team in terms of talent. Their defensive line played lights out. Their defensive line played good enough to win the ball game. I thought those boys they played inspired. Thought they made life really difficult for the quarterbacks. Brandon Peters, the quarterback who I thought was going to have a really good season this year for Illinois, he went out with a shoulder injury. Doesn't look good. There's been nothing reported yet, whether it's season ending or not. But whenever you see a shoulder injury, even if it was a non-throwing shoulder, but whenever you see a shoulder injury, that painful looking, it doesn't bode well, obviously, for the future of the quarterback. And so I hope Brandon Peters gets well. I thought he was poised to have a really good season this year. But props to Art Sitkowski. I gave him a lot of crap on Twitter. I did not think that was going to go well for Illinois, but he played really well. He made some nice throws down the field, had a beautiful throw for 45 yards that set up a touchdown. And so I thought the story of this game was really the story of two coaches. Scott Frost is not a good football coach. And I don't mean that to demean him. He's just not the guy for Nebraska. Scott Frost had a number of opportunities to have his team in position, not just to win this game, but to win it comfortably. And instead, his quarterback can't hit throws. And so they miss multiple touchdowns on bad throws. They have to settle for field goals. And then one of his star players, Cam Taylor-Britt, he's a defensive back, but he's also a punt returner. How do you not teach him to stay planted at the 10-yard line and let any other punt go over your head and into the end zone? He fields the punt at the 1-yard line, doesn't know what to do with the ball, and so he throws it forward out of bounds, and it leads to a safety. And then going into the half, they're driving, and Adrian Martinez fumbles the ball, becomes a scoop and score for Illinois. That leads to Illinois having a 16-9 lead at the half. Illinois extends the lead to 30-9 at one point. Nebraska did mount some sort of a comeback, but even their last scoring drive, it was a 7.5 minute drive in the fourth quarter when you're down 2 scores. Everything about this coaching performance was weak. And again, I don't want to pile on, but I saw Colin Coward on Twitter, guy I typically like and respect, but he was mentioning how the Nebraska job just isn't a good job anymore. And my rebuttal to that is Nebraska's not that bad of a job. They're not a national championship job right now, and I don't know if they'll ever be again. But to lose in that fashion, where you are making mistake after mistake after mistake, you are fumbling the ball. Your quarterback has not progressed in 4 years. Your star player is making routine mistakes in how he fields the punt. That is bad coaching. It is bad coaching. Every part of it was bad coaching. Contrast that to Bret Bielema. They didn't have more talented quarterbacks, and yet they played more intelligently. They don't have better running backs, but they found holes when they did. They held on to the ball, and they made big plays. The offensive line isn't better, but they weren't penalized as much. And then Illinois' punter was amazing. That's coaching. Illinois was outgained, and yet they won. And at one point, they were up 21 points. And as I watched that team, I saw shades of Wisconsin 10 years ago when Bret Bielema was their coach there. Bret Bielema is the right guy for this job, as much as it pains me to say it. And not only is he the right guy for this job, watch out for them in the West in 3 to 4 years. Because if Bielema can build on this, I think they become maybe even bowl eligible this year. But I think they become a threat in the West very quickly, because that type of style of team and offense, if they start recruiting even semi-decently, they can compete in the West in a few years. And so I really liked what I saw out of Illinois. I still don't think they're going to get to bowl eligibility this year. I think they're too far behind, and there's too many good teams in the West. But good job for Bielema. I'm going to talk about them a little bit later in the show. And guys, Scott Frost has got to get it turned around, or he's out of there. And he should be, if they can't beat Illinois. So that's my recap of the game. Let's go on to week one. To week one, we're going to pick 14 games here. I wanted to pick more. There's a couple of intriguing games that I just didn't have the time to really research, but check out Notre Dame at Florida State on Sunday night. That's going to be a fun game. I'm excited to see whether Mike Norvell gets those boys back on track in Tallahassee. I think Notre Dame is a wild card with Jack Cohn, now the starting quarterback. The other game I really wanted to look at, but I didn't have time. LSU at UCLA. Can Chip Kelly get a signature win out of conference? Going to be a fun game. I'm excited to watch that one. But let's go to the games that I am picking. Most of them are involving Big Ten teams, as this is Big Ten football talk. However, there will be a few games on here that are not Big Ten related. Whether it be because they feature opponents that Big Ten teams will play later on, or just because they're big national games that I want to highlight for you as an audience. So let's just go through. We start on Thursday night, September 2nd, and we start with a big one, Temple at Rutgers. Okay, maybe it's not that big, but it's going to be a fun year, I think, for Rutgers to see how they progress as a team. Do they build on their season from a year ago? They went 3-6, but 3-6 in the conference. So I thought that was real improvement. Do they take another step forward this year? This is a game that I think in years past they would lose and probably lose in spectacular fashion. Some info on the game. 6:30 p.m. on the Big Ten Network. Rutgers is a 13.5-point favorite. A little bit about Temple. Dewan Mathis transferred in from Georgia. He's the starter for Temple. They went 1-6 last year. I just don't have any confidence in Temple whatsoever. I think Rutgers wins this game. I think they win it pretty comfortably. Isaiah Pacheco, really good running back. I think one of the most underrated running backs in the conference. And they've got playmakers on the outside. Bo Melton, Aaron Cruikshank, Noah Vedral will, I think, get them the ball. And I think Rutgers wins 31-13. They really hold tight on defense against Mathis and the Owls. Rutgers wins by 18, covers the spread. The main event on Thursday night, number 4 Ohio State at Minnesota, 8 p.m. on Fox. We got Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt on the call, my favorite announced duo in college football. 13.5-point favorite, Ohio State. I think everybody knows that Minnesota was 3-4 last year, had a disappointing start, getting blown out by Michigan. I think this year I think they're better than that record from a year ago. I think they're probably a fringe top 25 team. They've got talent on offense. They have a huge offensive line. Daniel Falele is a 6'8", 390-pound offensive tackle, probably is going to be a first-round pick. Their entire offensive line is experienced. They're huge, and they open up run lanes for Ibrahim, the running back. He is excellent. Had over 1,000 yards, 15 touchdowns in 7 games last year. So I think their offense is really good. Tanner Morgan, I think, is a really good quarterback. He's a bit of a gunslinger, and he's got Chris Ottman-Bell at receiver, who I think is a really reliable receiver for them. So they've got great talent on offense, but my question is the defense. Even though they get Niles Pinckney transferring in from Clemson, I still have a lot of question marks about that. They gave up over 200 yards per game on the ground last year at 6.3 yards per rush. They didn't really play any good offenses either last year. They played some pretty bad offenses. Wisconsin was pretty weak by the end of the season. Northwestern was not a very good offensive team. So all these teams that they played, honestly, they did not. They were very weak defensively against pretty offensively challenged teams. And that is the key to this game, because they're going to face an Ohio State offense that not only has great running backs, not only has great wide receivers. Everybody knows Chris Olave. Everyone knows Garrett Wilson. Obviously, they're breaking in CJ Stroud as the starting quarterback. But forget those guys. The offensive line for Ohio State is massive, and they're skilled. Probably all 5 of them are NFL guys. DeJuan Jones is the wild card on that line. He's coming in. He's a 3-star guy, but he is a diamond in the rough type of recruit. 6'8", 360 pounds, can jump out of the gym, was a high school basketball all-star in Ohio. Really, really talented guy. Just never really focused on football until college. They really like this offensive line. Look for him, and Paris Johnson's another newcomer. I think that Minnesota will score. I think they'll get some cheap points early in this game because Ohio State secondary is young and inexperienced, as is the linebacking core. 2 key names, though, I think, for Ohio State to watch out. Craig Young at the bullet position. That's a hybrid safety position. They really like him. They're very high on his athleticism. And then I think on the offensive side of the ball, look out for Travion Henderson, true freshman running back. Really, really talented dude. I like Ohio State. I think it'll be close going into the half, maybe a 10-point game. Ohio State breaks it open in the second half. 48-27. I've got Ohio State covering the spread, but it'll be tough in the first quarter or first half. Let's move to Friday, September 3rd. We've got an ACC matchup for you. Number 10, North Carolina at Virginia Tech. That's at 6 p.m. on ESPN. 5.5-point favorites, UNC. This is an intriguing game, and that's why I picked it. Virginia Tech is always a tough out at home, always a tough out at night. with that crowd. Enter Sandman playing as the team comes in. And this is a make or break year, I think, for Justin Fuente as a coach. Braxton Burmeister takes over at quarterback. He's a skilled run pass option quarterback, really good dual threat guy. I think they've got receivers, Trey Turner, Tavion Robinson. They're gamers for these guys. They have a veteran O-line. I think the crowd makes it tough, especially as Sam Howell, UNC's quarterback, is adjusting to losing his top two receivers. He loses his top two running backs. All of them are NFL guys. But I think Mac Brown has built this team well. I think he really understands how to coach at UNC. He understands the culture. And I think it is close into the third quarter. Don't be surprised if Virginia Tech leads this game at some point, even in the second half. But I think UNC pulls away 34-23. Look out for big plays by Tony Grimes in that defensive backfield. He's a stud in the making at cornerback for UNC. Michigan State at Northwestern. That's 9 p.m. ESPN. Northwestern is a 3-point favorite. And this line really surprised me at first because I just am not very confident at all at Michigan State. But as I looked a bit more, I assumed that Ryan Helinski would be the starting quarterback for Northwestern. Instead, it's Hunter Johnson. Hunter Johnson, the Clemson transfer, won the job. In addition to that, Cam Porter, their best running back, is out for the season due to injury. And they need to replace some key guys on the offensive line. Rashawn Slater was a first-round offensive tackle for them. So there's some concerns here that I didn't realize when I was doing the preview back last week. I still think Northwestern is the better team. I think they're probably the better coach team because Pat Fitzgerald is probably the best coach in the Big Ten. And I love their defense. I know Patty Fisher's gone at linebacker, but Brandon Joseph is a stud at safety. First team All-American, had 6 interceptions last year in only 9 games. Had a big game against Auburn. That Northwestern beat Auburn last year. So I really like Northwestern, and I think Michigan State, they're undecided at quarterback. They have a lot of new pieces. I still don't think the talent is quite what they're used to there. And I'm still not sold on Mel Tucker as the coach. That I could be wrong there. I've heard good things from outsiders about Mel Tucker. I'm just not sold on him yet. And I just think they're probably a year away from starting to compete in the Big Ten. But I think this is a defensive struggle. I'm not sold on Hunter Johnson at quarterback. Northwestern wins barely. I've got them winning 17-13. They do cover the spread, but it's a small spread. 17-13 in Evanston. And that's the Friday games. Let's move to the main day of week 1, Saturday, September 4th. First game I've got Western Michigan at Michigan, 12 p.m. ESPN. Michigan 17-point favorites here. This is a sneaky game. Western Michigan, I don't think is as bad as you would expect a MAC team to be. And I don't think Michigan is as good as you would hope they would be. Again, lots of transfers. Cade McNamara at quarterback. They've got to replace a lot of NFL guys. They lost 8 NFL draft picks last year. You wouldn't think that because they went 2-4 last year, but they have to replace Kwity Paye. They have to replace a lot of guys. They do have some good playmakers coming back. Hassan Haskins, Blake Corum at running back. They've got some receivers. Ronnie Bell is kind of their bell cow there at wide receiver. I think they cruise to a 35-14 win, mostly in the second half. I think it'll be tough going in the beginning. Again, I think it's probably close as they close the half here, but I think the running backs will be able to do some business on that defense. 35-14 before Michigan gets a real opponent next week in Washington. That's going to be a tough game for them. The next game, Fordham at Nebraska at 12 p.m. on the Big Ten Network. There is no line for this game. because it really shouldn't be a contest. Patriot League teams are one of the Patriot League in the FCS is one of the weakest leagues in FCS football in that division. If Nebraska struggles at all against Fordham, then honestly, they should fire Scott Frost on the spot. There's no reason why they should struggle. Fordham is completely overmatched here. And so Nebraska wins by at least 28. They should be able to name the score. And again, if they don't, I would tell Scott Frost to walk home and to never come back. I hope that's not the case. I want Scott Frost to succeed, but there's no reason why Nebraska shouldn't win by at least 28 here. Fresno State at number 11, Oregon. That's 2 p.m. on the Pac-12 network. Oregon, a 20.5-point favorite. We're covering this because next week, Oregon travels to Columbus to take on the Ohio State Buckeyes. It's another kind of intriguing week one game. Fresno State completely dominated UConn. Now, UConn didn't play football last year, so that's a big part of it, I think. But they still won 45-0. Jake Haener, the quarterback for Fresno State, was brilliant. 331 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's going to have a much tougher time against this defense. All 3 levels of Oregon's defense are good. I think Oregon's defense is a championship caliber defense. I think they have guys everywhere. Kayvon Thibodeau is probably going to be the number 1 pick in the draft, unless if a quarterback goes ahead of him. Really, really excellent defensive end for the Ducks. Really good linebackers. I like Oregon to win this game, but I do think Fresno State probably creeps in and gets a backdoor cover here. I've got Oregon winning 38-24. CJ Verdell, I think at running back will have a big game. And Anthony Brown at quarterback will manage it. Oregon by 2 scores, 38-24. Number 1, Alabama at number 14, Miami. Again, a big time non-conference matchup outside the Big Ten. It's at 3:30 at ABC. Alabama, 18.5-point favorites. There's a lot I want to say about Miami, but I'm just going to analyze this game in this way. From 2012 to 2019, Alabama has had 8 non-conference Power 5 openers. I think they've all been neutral site. And they have won by an average of 41-12. I just don't see that changing. Alabama, and it doesn't matter who the team is, Alabama has figured out how to do these opening games against big-time opponents in neutral sites. I think they do it again. Bryce Young is the new kid on the block at quarterback. I think he's going to have a great game. And Bama rolls 45-14. I don't think that's an indictment on Miami. I think Miami is going to have a really good year. I just don't think Bama is going to get tested in this game. Bama by 31. At 3:30 also on the Big Ten Network. I don't know why it's on the Big Ten Network. I feel like this game should be on Fox or on ESPN. But number 17, Indiana at number 18, Iowa. Really, honestly, I think it's going to be the better game out of the 3:30 games. Iowa is a 3.5-point favorite. Listen, everybody knows Michael Penix at quarterback for Indiana, Ty Freifogel at wide receiver. Really, really good offensive skill, and they have a talented defense. I just, for all that was said about Indiana last year, Iowa had a really good year last year. I think they lost 2 straight in the Open, and then they reeled off 6 straight wins. And were probably the best team in the West by the end of the year. I know they lost to Northwestern, and obviously Northwestern won the West, but I just think a lot of people don't understand how good Iowa is, and they're just consistently good every year. Spencer Petras at quarterback is efficient. Tyler Goodson, I think, is an effective tailback. I love this name, Zack Van Valkenburg as an edge rusher for Iowa. I think they limit the Hoosier run game. They have always struggled to run the ball and get chunks on the ground. I think they limit the big play. The Hoosiers need big plays down the field really to be effective. I think they limit them. And I think Iowa gets a 7-point win in Iowa City. Again, that's really not an indictment on Indiana. I just think Iowa is really good. And I think people know that Indiana is coming. Last year, they surprised everybody. This year, they don't have the element of surprise. So I think Iowa wins 24-17. Also at 3:30 on ESPN, West Virginia at Maryland. A nice non-conference game here for Maryland. West Virginia, 3-point favorites. I think this is going to be maybe the most fun game all day. It's going to be an offensive showcase. Both teams have explosive offensive players. They have good quarterbacks. Jarrett Doge is a seasoned vet for West Virginia, and they have a 1,000-yard rusher in Letty Brown. Talia Tagovailoa, I think he has the higher ceiling out of these quarterbacks. Obviously, he's been inconsistent. He's made some mistakes, thrown some interceptions. But I think they have the best receiving core, or at least the most explosive receiving core outside of Ohio State in the conference. Dante Demas, Raheem Jarrett, those boys can fly. And Maryland's done well in the past several years in non-conference Power 5 games. They've beat Texas twice. And I think they have the firepower to win a shootout here. Maryland wins 49-41 at home. Oregon State at Purdue, 7 p.m. on FS1. Purdue, 7-point favorites. And I think that's a good line for them. The two names that you need to know, and you'll always need to know for Purdue, David Bell at wide receiver, George Karlaftis on the defensive line. They'll be the difference against a hapless Oregon State team. Not much else there. Oregon State's just not very good. 38-27 Purdue. Texas San Antonio at Illinois, 7:30 Big Ten Network. Illinois, 6.5-point favorites. UTSA, Texas San Antonio, is coming off a 7-5 season in Conference USA. And they played BYU tough last year. So this is a sneaky game. If Illinois fans are like, we beat Nebraska, this should be a piece of cake. Hold your horses. Okay. I think Illinois wins, but they better not look ahead. I think Illinois wins 28-24. Mike Epstein at running back, I think, will be the difference in the game. Sitkowski, I think, will manage the game well again. But do not look past this game, Illinois. Please don't do it, okay? Because this is a tougher game than I think people are giving credit for. I've got Illinois by 4. National game of the week, number 5 Georgia at number 3 Clemson. This game is, I'm so excited that these two teams are playing. I think this is probably the best non-conference game of the season. Clemson is coming off another playoff appearance. They've been playoff mainstays over the past 6 years. DJ Uiagalelei makes his 3rd start. He's replacing Trevor Lawrence, really talented quarterback. And he gets Justin Ross back at receiver. I really hope he's 100% coming off that potential career-ending spinal issue that he had. And I'm excited to see Will Shipley. I don't know how much he's going to play. He's a true freshman at running back, comparable to Christian McCaffrey as a player and in his style. But I think the key to this game is going to be defense. And I think Clemson got exposed a bit against Ohio State, particularly a lack of athleticism on the back end. And their best corner from a year ago, Darian Kendrick, is going to be playing for Georgia this year. He transferred out and went to Georgia. And along with Kendrick, man, you look across at Georgia's defense, and as good as Clemson's offensive firepower is, I just don't know how they're going to move the ball consistently against this defense. Jordan Davis at nose tackle, Adam Anderson at linebacker. These are potential first-round picks in that defensive front seven. I think this is probably the best defense in college football. And Zamir White running behind that talented offensive line. JT Daniels, who I don't think is as good as people want him to be, but I think he is good enough. He's certainly better than some of the quarterbacks that they had a year ago. I think Georgia slows down Clemson's offensive firepower just enough. And I don't think Clemson's defense is good enough to keep up with Georgia, even with the loss of some of their offensive playmakers due to injury. Georgia wins 34-27. And then last but not least, the big game in the Big Ten, number 19, Penn State at number 12, Wisconsin. That is the big noon kickoff, 12 o'clock, Fox. Gus Johnson, Joel Klatt, Wisconsin 4.5-point favorites here. I think this game, it's hard to pick because I think a lot of people are projecting Wisconsin to be really good. And I think a lot of people are really wary of Penn State because of their 4-5 record. And honestly, I think perception should be reversed a little bit. Penn State is probably the second most talented team in the Big Ten. And I think they're a lot better than their record from a year ago. If I'm being honest, I think Indiana beat them 5 times. They lost to Indiana. They lost to Ohio State. They had nothing to play for. I think they have more high-end talent. Rasheed Walker at offensive tackle, Jahan Dotson at receiver, probably first-round picks or top 2-round picks. And I think their defense, their back 7 is really talented. Tariq Castro-Fields and Joey Porter on the outside, I think, are going to take care of Danny Davis and Kendrick Pryor, who are coming back for the Badgers. They were hurt all last year for a good chunk of the year last year. I think they match up well with them. The real key to this game is, can Penn State's defensive line win enough battles to get Wisconsin off the field against their offensive line? I think Wisconsin has their normal recipe. They have a good running back in Jalen Berger. They have a talented offensive line. They have a quarterback who I think has the potential to be their best quarterback since Russell Wilson. But I think Penn State's going to win enough battles here to kind of keep them at bay and outscore the Badgers by the end of this one. Look for Arnold Abikate, the transfer from Temple, PJ Mustipher on that defensive line. I've got Penn State winning 35-30. I think it's going to be a heck of a game. Really looking forward to it. So those are my picks. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. So feel free to comment. Tell me how I'm wrong. Tell me your score predictions. And again, remember to like and hit the subscribe button and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast feed. Remember, this is the Big Ten Football Talk podcast. I am your host, Zack Guggenheim. So long and have a great week 1. God bless.